Hello and welcome to Foreign Dispatches, the program that takes you around the world in 25 minutes. I'm Teniola Shoboale. On the program this week, President of the Philippines threatens to jail those who refuse to get COVID-19 vaccine. Plus, World Health Organization announces plan to set up hub to make COVID-19 vaccines in South Africa. Leaders around the world have come up with various creative ways to get their citizens to take the COVID-19 vaccine. Some have offered food vouchers, drinks, and even chickens. But the Philippines president has gone a step further, threatening to send people to prison for refusing to get vaccinated. The move comes as the government places the country's border controls on heightened alert over new cases of the Delta variant.
The Philippines began its vaccination program in March, but there have been reports of low turnouts at several vaccination centers in the country. Although people are also reportedly scrambling to get the limited supply of the Pfizer-BioNTech jabs. Admitting that he is growing exasperated, President Rodrigo Duterte has threatened to jail citizens who refuse to get vaccinated.
You choose, get vaccinated, or I will have you jailed. I'm telling you, those police jail cells are filthy and foul-smelling. Police are lazy in cleaning. That is where you'll be.
He also threatened to inject them with shots intended for pigs.
Pero pag hindi ayaw ninyo, ipa-aresto ko kayo.
You get vaccinated. Otherwise, I will order all the village heads to have a tally of all the people who refuse to get vaccinated. Because if not, I will inject them with ivermectin, which is intended for pigs.
The president has also previously threatened to shoot Filipinos found violating lockdown restrictions during the pandemic. Reacting to the president's latest threat, residents in Manila could not hide their displeasure.
It is very wrong. It is against the rights of the people if they arrest those who choose not to get vaccinated. Like me, I don't want to get vaccinated yet. Will force me? Will they arrest me even if I haven't committed a crime? It is not enough reason.
I don't think arrests should be allowed. People haven't committed any crime, so why should they be arrested?
Duterte's remarks contradict those of his health officials who have said that while people are urged to receive the COVID-19 vaccine, it was voluntary. As of June 20th, Filipino authorities had fully vaccinated 2.1 million people, making slow progress towards the government's target to immunize up to 70 million people this year in a country of 110 million. The Philippines medical community has been stepping up efforts to encourage citizens to get the coronavirus vaccine shots. A community in the Philippines has even gone as far as conducting lucky draws with sacks of rice as incentives to motivate residents who are reluctant to receive the jab. Recording about 1.3 million infections and over 23,000 deaths, the Philippines is battling the second highest COVID-19 caseload in the region, next to Indonesia.
Also taking a hard stance in Russia, Moscow's mayor has ordered bars and restaurants to serve people only if they've been vaccinated against COVID-19. It's one of the Russian capital's toughest steps to fight the pandemic since last year's lockdown.
The Kremlin has blamed a renewed wave of infections over the last 2 weeks on the Delta variant and the slow pace of its vaccination program, even though 4 domestically produced vaccines have been approved for use. In a bid to curb the spread of the virus, Mayor Sergei Sobyanin on Tuesday announced new restrictions that will take effect from June 28th and were needed to avert a stringent new lockdown. Residents who want to visit cafes, restaurants or bars will be required to present a QR code showing that they have either been vaccinated, had a confirmed COVID-19 infection within the past 6 months, or tested negative within the last 3 days.
I believe that this is a necessary measure to overcome the coronavirus, and vaccination is also beneficial for most citizens. And the fact that this will to some extent allow other people to spend their leisure time in comfort, I think this will have a good effect on the life of the population and the fight against coronavirus.
The Kremlin told Russians on Tuesday it was inevitable they could face discrimination in the workplace if they did not get vaccinated. Some Moscow residents say the new measures are justified.
I think many people will be against it, of course, but I think it is a right measure worthy of implementation.
While some are completely against it, describing the move as discriminatory.
I can't say it's a medical rape. We don't give our consent. We were blackmailed by the threat of being fired. That's all I can say. It's an absolutely wrong decision. I did not want to be vaccinated.
Russia reported 546 coronavirus-related deaths nationwide on Tuesday, the most confirmed in a single day since February. New positive test cases totaled 16,715. Moscow has throughout the pandemic reported the most cases on a daily basis out of any Russian region. The city has not been put in lockdown since June 2020. Authorities have said targeted measures are sufficient. They are trying to compel people to get vaccinated, offering those who do the chance to win new cars and flats, while threatening others who don't with loss of earnings and dismissal. As of June 23rd, around 15.6 million of Russia's 144 million population had been fully vaccinated. That's just 10.8% of the population.
A weak link in Israel's world-beaten COVID-19 vaccination rollout until now. 12 to 15-year-olds have found themselves on the front line of the campaign with fears of the Delta variant, prompting reluctant parents to get their children vaccinated.
According to Health Ministry data, about 3/4 of Israelis in eligible age groups have received the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. But that ranges from about 90% of those over 50 to just 2 to 4% of 12 to 15-year-olds getting vaccinated since they were made eligible this month. With infections falling sharply from a peak of more than 10,000 daily cases in January to single-digit cases in June, Israel has dropped nearly all its social distancing restrictions and has said it would open its borders to vaccinated tourists as of July. As such, many parents saw no rush in vaccinating their adolescent children, but the number of daily cases more than doubled to 125 on Monday, June 21st, after outbreaks at 2 schools last week. Officials attribute the resurgence to the more infectious Delta variant.
We came today to vaccinate Chen. She is 13 years old, and I was waiting until the Minister of Health will give the approval to vaccinate her age. When it's arrived, there was no anymore COVID in Israel, so my wife said, leave it. But now, after the COVID outbreak and all this situation, I said today, I don't give a damn, today.
Israel's 2 largest healthcare providers that cover most of the country's 9 million population say appointments for 12 to 15-year-old vaccinations have doubled and tripled in the last few days. The Health Ministry on Monday issued a formal recommendation that 12 to 15-year-olds get vaccinated and is now investing in outreach to get parents to bring their children in for shots. However, some parents still see no rush.
He had corona, so but still this is the variant, so it's something else, so we don't sure about it. I thought until yesterday that I'm not going to vaccine him at all, and now I'm not so sure about it.
There was a debate, but at the moment we feel that we don't want to vaccinate. We prefer that. It seems like if we can control it without getting vaccinated, the kids, we prefer that.
But experts say there will be no herd immunity without the younger generation getting vaccinated.
In Israel, which is one of the most highly vaccinated countries in the world, over a third of the population, mostly children and adolescents, are unvaccinated. At this level, it is unlikely that one can reach full herd immunity. However, in order to control the disease dissemination, one does not necessarily need full herd immunity. And with the proper combination of measures and non-pharmaceutical interventions employed specifically over time, one can still keep the disease contained even if the kids and adolescents have not been vaccinated.
Some studies abroad, where Delta is more common, have shown the Pfizer vaccine to be effective. Israel has been sharing data it collected on vaccine efficacy with Pfizer, which provided the vaccines under a collaboration agreement that may help other countries fine-tune their own inoculation campaigns.
The Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, and South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa have announced that South Africa will be hosting a technology transfer hub for coronavirus vaccines to scale up production, information, and education. South Africa, with nearly 2 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 so far, is currently experiencing a third wave of infections and has only managed to vaccinate about 2.2 million of its 60 million population. The South African president believes the hub is the first step towards Africa producing its own vaccines in the future. Our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia, has the story.
South Africa has been at the front of calls for boosting not just Africa's access to vaccines, but also Africa's capacity to produce such vaccines on the continent. The Director General of the WHO, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, announced what has been done about this.
Today, I'm delighted to announce that WHO is in discussions with a consortium of companies and institutions to establish a technology transfer hub in South Africa. The consortium involves a company called African Biologics and Vaccines, which will act as the hub both by manufacturing mRNA vaccines itself and by providing training to a second manufacturer called BioVac.
The BioVac Institute, based in Cape Town, South Africa, is a public-private sector partnership between the South African government and the Johannesburg Stock Exchange-listed BioVac Consortium, formed in 2003 to establish local vaccine manufacturing capability. An excited President Cyril Ramaphosa lauded the development, but added that the journey does not stop there, a view shared by his French counterpart.
Through this initiative and others, we will change the narrative of an Africa that is a center of disease and poor development. Today is historic, and we see this as a step in the right direction, but it does not detract us from our original proposal put together by India and South Africa that we should see a waiver of TRIPS at the World Health Organization. And we would like the negotiations that are taking place there to proceed with speed, because, as you correctly said, Dr. Tedros, people in Africa are facing a rising wave of infections. It's been shown now that we just cannot continue to rely on vaccines that are made outside of Africa, because they never come, they never arrive on time, and people continue to die.
Est la première de nombreuses autres.
Each continent must be able to develop and produce its own vaccines, its own medicines. This technology hub will allow for a rapid response to develop new vaccines to address new variants of COVID-19 or newly emerging pathogens on the African continent, and for the benefit of the entire world.
According to the WHO's chief scientist, Soumya Swaminathan, there are still several options on the table, mainly smaller companies and biotechs on one hand, and larger mRNA companies on the other, with a hope that they will come on board. Pfizer and BioNTech, along with Moderna, are the main producers of COVID-19 vaccines using mRNA technology.
When Foreign Dispatches returns in just a moment, we shift our focus to protecting the environment. Please stay with us. You're still watching Foreign Dispatches on Channels Television. Australia's government has lashed out after a United Nations report claimed it had not done enough to protect the Great Barrier Reef from climate change. UN body UNESCO says the reef should be put on a list of World Heritage sites that are in danger due to the damage it has suffered. However, Australia's Environment Minister calls the move politically motivated.
The United Nations committee that handles UNESCO World Heritage Sites is recommending that Australia's Great Barrier Reef be listed as a site in danger, a suggestion that has angered Australia's government, who call it politically motivated.
This is a complete subversion of normal process. The Foreign Minister and I had a late night meeting with the Director General of UNESCO last night, and we made very clear our strong disappointment, even our bewilderment that our officials have been blindsided in the way that they have. Only a week ago we were reassured that this was not going to occur. Climate change is the biggest threat to the reef, and in no way am I stepping away from that recognition. And countries, including European countries, have got strong views about what policies different countries should have on climate change, and I understand that as well. But this is not the convention in which to have those conversations. The correct place to have those conversations is the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. I will stand up in any community, and I do, and say that we have the best managed reef in the world, the gold standard, and no one has contradicted me yet. So this decision was flawed. Clearly there were politics behind it. Clearly those politics have subverted a proper process. And for the World Heritage Committee to not even foreshadow this listing is, I think, appalling.
According to reports, China, which chairs the committee, had been responsible for their stance. Relations with China and Australia have been fraught recently. However, China has dismissed the accusations that it was behind the move as misinformation. Environmental groups also dismissed politics playing a part, saying that Australia was not doing enough to protect the reef. They say the listing is an opportunity to improve.
But if I can make a couple of points about what in danger means, it's not a permanent listing. It's a concern raised by the World Heritage Committee about the values of a World Heritage property. And so there are currently about 53 other properties on the in danger list, and many properties have come off the in danger list once they can show that they have addressed the concerns that have been raised by the committee. There are some people that claim that in danger listing will mean the end of tourism to the reef. And I think it's important to recognise that this is certainly not happened in other places that are listed in danger. So there are 3 sites that I analysed in a previous assessment that have been listed in danger. One was Galapagos, one was Belize, and one was the Everglades in Florida. And each of those sites, the in danger listing had no discernible impact on their tourism numbers. Certainly tourism numbers go up and down, but that's just normal fluctuations. And so things like COVID are having a far greater impact on tourism visiting the Great Barrier Reef than this in danger, if it happens, listing will do.
UNESCO, who made the recommendation, say the action was needed to counter the effects of climate change. Scientists say the reef has suffered major coral bleaching events caused by severe marine heat waves.
Hotels place a huge demand on the Earth's resources. Major impact comes mainly from the energy, water, food and other resources that are consumed in running them. It goes without saying that stakeholders in the hospitality sector need to embrace more sustainable practices. In this next report, our Dubai correspondent, Mayowa Adegoke, visits the famed Atlantis Dubai resort to see what steps are being taken to help the environment.
From building to operations, hotels and the hospitality industry at large do a lot of damage to the environment, as well as contribute to the loss of biodiversity. Famed Atlantis Dubai Resort is home to the Lost Chambers Aquarium, with over 65,000 marine animals of 250 species. It is looking to play a major role in advancing sustainability in the hospitality industry with its newly launched Atlas project.
And one of our core pillars is marine conservation and animal welfare, because that's what we're really committed to. But also when you're looking at sustainability, we can't be protecting just marine life and the animals in the wild and the animals under our care. We also have to act responsibly ourselves. So another key pillar is responsible operations, where you see us managing waste, energy, water, sourcing. But also our third pillar is education and awareness, because without education and awareness, people don't change.
An estimated 5 million annual visitors to the resort means a lot of waste is generated. However, for every marine animal experience booked by a visitor, $1 will be donated to conservation, sustainability, and environmental education initiatives.
So we have a recycling program where we recycle aluminium, paper, plastic, even kind of used cooking oil, etc. And in addition to recycling, we also do a lot of reusing as well. So instead of kind of discarding, you can imagine we've got a lot of linens, towels, etc. We donate them to charity. We've got a lot of staff uniforms. We donate them to charity. Used amenities in rooms, again, we work with an organization, donate them to charity. So ultimately, by recycling and donating, we're reducing the amount that's going to landfill. So all of this is really important, and this is a nice kind of first step. But over time, you'll see this, effort increase as new technologies come in, and we're able to, even increase recycling even further.
Children are often brought in to learn about their conservation and animal release programs.
We've been doing this about 3 years now, is our release program, and we do it with the local government agencies, so the Dubai municipality and the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. So we do it in conjunction with those two agencies. And normally we release the sharks and rays in the Jebel Ali Marine Reserve, which is about 30 kilometers up the coast. So it's a protected area where we're releasing the animals. So essentially what happens is the baby sharks that I showed you earlier, we grow them up until they're bigger and strong enough. And then we keep them in here. And then they'll either go onto the exhibit or we send them to the Jebel Ali Reserve to be released. Again, we go back to education. It's getting kids up there involved in the releases. We normally combine it with something else, or it might be mangrove planting, or we might be releasing some turtles with another aquarium as well. And having the kids there, getting involved, getting their hands dirty, helping putting the sharks and the stingrays into the ocean is really, really important, that kind of education process that we've been talking about. These animals will only breed if the conditions are perfect, right? So it's a great sign for us, because it means that we have the right conditions for our animals, for them to be breeding.
In the kitchen, Chef Wong develops a new recipe using locally sourced ingredients.
We have salmon which is locally grown from Jebel Ali fish farm. We get the whole fishes in and we use every last bit of it. We use the fish bones for the stalks, we cure the skins as well, we create chips out of them. We utilize everything on the plate and on the product.
Meats are also dry aged to reduce carbon footprint as a result of importation.
So what we do is we cut these into steaks, but all these trimmings we melt down into a dry aged butter. So we don't use any fat like normal butter. We use the dry aged meat. We also make popcorn out of it as an amuse-bouche for the diners, as a complimentary snack as well.
And all this is part of, being sustainable, making sure you're cutting down waste.
Yeah, exactly. We don't waste anything, we use everything up.
Launched on World Oceans Day 2021, hopes are high the Atlas project will live up to expectations and push others in the hospitality industry to take bold steps to protect the earth.
Well, this is where we say goodbye till next time. Remember, our top stories are never far away. You can catch them on channelstv.com. Thank you so much for watching the program. I'm Teniola Shoboale. Stay safe.